I was either going to be the fastest guy up this climb, or I was going to die trying. Welcome to a very exciting race. This one finishes with some drama.
Just to get stronger. My problem is I'm not strong enough. So I just need to get stronger.
And they're off. And it's time to test those climbing legs. Welcome to the after party, and it's time for stage 1. This one finishes on a climb, but the climb is not that terribly long. My plan here is to conserve energy in the group, and then once we hit the final climb, hit the bottom steep portions really hard, hopefully separate from the group a little bit, and hang on for victory. For this race, I decided to use a light frame and wheel set because we were going to be finishing at the top of the climb. I chose a specialized Athos frame along with the Meilenstein lightweight wheel set. Fortunately, I have the first aero upgrade on this bike. I was racing in the lower B category, and despite us finishing on the climb, I actually liked my chances to have a good finish. During the early flat portions of this race, there was a lot of nervous energy in the pack. This resulted in a lot of surges, and it was difficult to get into a rhythm. I almost got dropped a couple times. Early on in the race, we had a rider from Germany, G. Sandfidel, go out for a break. He stayed away for quite a while, but he was caught by the group and did decide to go again a little bit later on. He was joined by another rider from Canada, Jay Bird. With this being G. Sanfidel's second attempt at a break, it was just too much, and he was brought back by the pack. But Jay Bird managed to stay away. I was personally not worried about one rider getting away, and I was happy to let him dangle in front of the pack and use up all of that valuable energy before the final climb. First, we must contend with the Jarvis KOM. I just climbed this in a race during stage 5 of the recent Zwift Games. See my Zwift Games video. With the knowledge in the back of my mind that I had stayed with the upper B class riders on this climb the last time I raced it, I was fairly comfortable with my chances of being able to stay with this group today. At the very crest of this climb, 3 riders, N. Kent cycling coach, Jay Plant, and Jay Peterson, all decide to get away from the bunch and catch up with Jay Bird, who is about 14 seconds ahead. Now I have a choice to make. Do I go with those lead riders and use a lot of energy? The risk is, if we get caught, I'm not going to have that energy left anymore for the climb. I do realize that there is a significant amount of downhill as we approach the final climb. This could certainly benefit the breakaway. However, when Jay Plant and Jay Peterson decide to pump the brakes and come back to the pack, there are now only 2 riders ahead. Jay Bird having been out there for quite a while now and having used a lot of energy, and I'm still feeling pretty good about our chances to pull them back on the climb. Now, the peloton doesn't have much energy here on this last part of the course before we get to the climb. Nobody really seems to be doing much work, and the gap to the 2 riders up front unfortunately grow. And as a matter of fact, Jay Plant makes a second attempt to get away from the group here as well. I have already made the assumption that I am likely not the strongest climber in this group, and therefore I am not going to be the one chasing these guys down. I need my energy for the climb. Well, my friends, we made it to the bottom of the climb, and like I promised, I hit this thing like a freight train. I was either going to be the fastest guy up this climb, or I was going to die trying. as we get about halfway up this climb, my power does fade. But my determination does not. Now during my recon, I identified that the steep slopes are at the bottom of this hill, so I wanted to apply the most of my power there. Now it appears that Jay Bird and N. Kent cycling coach were able to sustain their power on this climb. Hats off to them. Jay Peterson and me have opened up some daylight to the riders behind us. So, it's me and him racing for third. As we reach the upper slopes, I am starting to feel it. Just keep pedaling. We are so close to the finish, the pain will stop soon, and I am going for third place here. I want that podium. This, my friends, is when I realized that the glitch that was only supposed to affect stage 1 on day 1 had still not been fixed. We had to keep racing for another couple miles down the hill and into town. While I knew there was the possibility that this could happen, I cannot describe to you how hard it was to reset myself. After that absolutely beastly effort I put in to pass Jay Peterson, I was not only physically empty, I was mentally wasted as well. Resetting just as fast as I can, I realize that there are still 2 riders up front. I am entering an advantageous portion of this route, downhill, which I can do pretty quickly. And I've got Jay Peterson, with whom I am going to sit up and wait for so that we can together try to catch the 2 leaders. Now I had to decide if I was going to push down this hill or if I was just going to pedal softly and try to regain some power. To be honest with you, I don't know how much of a decision it really was. I don't think I had any power to push down this hill anymore. So I let Peterson pass me, and I just stayed in his draft. As we exit the portal, I see that Jay Bird and N. Kent cycling coach are almost 30 seconds in front of me and Jay Peterson. My mind immediately tells me that I should work with Peterson to try to catch the 2 leaders. What I don't notice at the time is that Jay Bird stops producing power and disconnects. Of course, I can only speculate as to why he disconnected. I can only assume that it was unintentional, as he was still in a really good position to try to win the race. Or perhaps he was so mentally broken by the finish line changing that he just decided he didn't want to go anymore. Remember, he was the second rider to break away and had been out in front by himself for almost this entire race. Back to the task at hand. I can see that the gap is not getting any smaller. We're not going to catch what I think are the 2 leaders. And even if I wanted to try to close this gap down, I just didn't have anything left to do so. Peterson continues to pull, and I gladly stay in his draft. We just have to be mindful of the rider JP, who is working to close the gap on us. Peterson and I start to play a little game of cat and mouse. I noticed that when we were traveling on the flats at the same speed, he was putting out higher watts per kilogram than me, so I knew he was a lighter rider. I was also able to push past him rapidly at the top of the last climb, so I was fairly confident that I could out-sprint him. My plan was to wait until he opened up his sprint, and then go with everything I had left. Well, here we go, folks. The second time that we are going to sprint for what I think is third place, and a spot on the podium. So, while I catch my breath, let's talk about the results. I finished second on a stage that had a relatively healthy climb. I am absolutely over the moon with this result. This was an incredibly exciting race that was jam-packed with action and required 2 sprint finishes for me to get third. Or second. Well, actually, there may be one more curveball. Remember that all racers have to legitimize their efforts on Zwift Power. After I finish sharing my post-race comments and thoughts, I will go ahead and share the Zwift Power results.
Not yet.
Okay, well, it looks like we have time now. As you can see, I actually won. When viewing the results of the race on the Zwift Companion app, you notice that Neil Kent did not have a heart rate monitor on for this race. If his performance was in fact legitimate, then his effort was absolutely incredible. Good job to you, sir. In any case, I will gladly accept my Zwift Power victory.
That's unbelievable. I don't know how those guys stayed away. Only one guy stayed away. I guess I passed the other guy somewhere. Speaking to my own effort. Oh my gosh. The hill was harder than I thought it was going to be, but it was a little quicker than I thought it was going to be too. I did do a race recon. And everything indicated that towards the glitch only being on the first day of this race. Clearly that's not the case, because this is not the first day of the race. And the glitch is still there. But I was able to recover. Had this absolute stud, Jay Peterson. 14Y, I'm assuming that's his age. Strong kid. Only 211 watts put out during that race. He must be extremely light. As an average, I mean. Yeah, 3.7 watts per kilogram. Wow. That was a huge effort for me to stay up with a very light rider up that climb. A little disappointed I didn't win at the top because, well, not win, but between the two of us. I'm a little disappointed I didn't get the finish at the top there. That would have been a pretty awesome second place finish at the top of a hill like that. Big climb. I don't consider myself a great climber, but I want to work on it. I'm tired of saying that. I feel like it's a little bit of an excuse. There are heavy guys that can climb. I just need to get stronger. My problem is I'm not strong enough. So I just need to get stronger. Jay Peterson, I'm sorry I didn't help. As we were going down that hill and trying to make the catch, I wanted to make the catch, I really did. I just had nothing. I mean, I I was just hanging on for dear life at that point, saving anything I did have left for a sprint. It's a competition. You're supposed to win. So I didn't think we'd be caught by the riders behind, and I didn't think that we would make the bridge up to the first rider either. So he seemed willing to pull, and I just sat on. Sorry, man. You're a strong rider. Alright. Oh, man. Until next time.
Thanks for watching.